Founded by the Kinito brothers in the early 70s, the Kinito Leisure and Entertainment Company has been grounded in its manufacturing of lovable characters.
Welcome to KinitoPET. This is going to be a bit of a different video for anyone who's watched my quote-unquote normal content, but nevertheless, I want to take you on an adventure through the land of this genre of horror game, and more specifically, why it is by far my favorite. This game lands in a genre called meta horror, which is the type of game that focuses on fourth wall breaks to scare the player. Some games you may have already heard of which fall under this category are titles like I'm Scared, A Dark Place, Irisu Syndrome, and the most popular, Doki Doki Literature Club. Each of these games have a different approach to how they intend to scare the player. Games like I'm Scared are very clearly horror games and there's no hiding it, but games like Doki Doki Literature Club disguise themselves as kid-friendly games with no malicious intentions. These types of games are my preferred of the two, and DDLC does a fantastic job of luring the player into a false sense of innocence before ripping it away from them in spectacular fashion. If you somehow haven't seen or played these games yet, and you're a big fan of horror games, I implore you to dive into these yourself before watching this video, as I'll be covering their best moments and what makes them so fantastic. Although these games are only the side dishes for what's being served in this video, KinitoPET. Anyone who's been around the internet long enough will feel an immediate sense of nostalgia when seeing the game's main screen. The developers have recreated that classic feel of an old school early 2000s Windows operating system. Back when your computer had 3D Pinball and Minesweeper pre-installed, back when paint had literally just a brush and an eraser, and a pencil tool if you felt fancy enough to use it. I had to stop myself from spending too much time on pinball when I remembered there was an actual game to play. Another really cool part of this game is that it uses your actual desktop as the background for the game, and when you select certain folders, it will open those real folders on your computer. When you first boot up the game, you're greeted with the power button, which threw me off at first, and upon clicking it, an old CRT monitor then drops into view and projects a Windows XP login screen using your actual PC username. From there, it asks you for your password, which I don't think really matters. I just put password every time, and it worked. The game also pulls from your Steam information, such as your Steam username and friends list, and even your computer's local time. After you're done messing around drawing things, you'll probably find yourself in the glorious World Wide Web, where you can search anything up and the game makes fake websites with what you typed in. And when you exit out of the browser, you'll be able to see all of the been an error and the data stream has been interrupted. Oh, Christ. Oh, uh-oh. Oh, that's not good. Don't you want a friend who knows everything about you? Oh, what the hell? Uh-oh. And now we're taken to KinitoPET, a desktop virtual assistant whose design is heavily inspired by the real desktop assistant BonziBuddy. If you've ever watched one of Vargskelethor Joel's Windows Destruction live streams, you'll be familiar with this purple hellspawn that tries to take information from your computer while fronting as a helpful internet companion. Below is a download now button that installs KinitoPET for your quote-unquote computer and even runs a fake setup wizard, which I really enjoyed. As the program installs, the screen gets a little distorted and you can hear a glass tinking sound, almost as if there's a heartbeat or if this program is trying to tap the screen in order to get into your computer. And after clicking on the mysterious egg that has now appeared on your screen, KinitoPET pops out and begins to introduce himself, as well as asking the player some simple questions to get to know them better. Kinito then shows us a deep dive into his world where his other two friends reside, the Kinito Crew's web world. The layout reminds me of old school browser games like Club Penguin and Animal Jam. There's also a short little introductory paragraph for each of the characters below the map. Out of Kinito's friends, Sam has a task for the player almost immediately. Sam's house hasn't been neglected a proper clean for some time, and wants the player to dust off some of the cobwebs and clean the floors before giving it a final decorating job. Right as the player begins scrubbing the floor, however, there's a flash of a dark room covered in blood with a shadowy figure standing in the corner, along with what seems to be some red text that I still don't actually know what it says. The best I could come up with is, "Am I even alive?" Sam then thanks you for painting his walls by nearly crashing the webpage and appearing for a brief moment to say, "It was all your fault," before returning to normal. Finally, you're given a couple items to decorate the room with. There's a good range of items such as a table, a bed, alarm clock, a couple of chairs, and a body bag that is then slid across the floor as this eerie audio plays. Oh, that's a body bag. Uh-oh. Sam, did you kill someone? Oh, those are eyes. Oh, I don't like that. What the fuck are you?
Thank you for helping out Sam. If you like, you can print out your work. Or just press next to continue.
You know what? I want to print that out. After helping out Sam, we're on to Kinito's other friend, Jade the Jellyfish, who's running a toy factory and needs help putting together some toys. If you click the wrong item on the conveyor belt, Jade will let you know, which really helps sell the whole website game feel that Kinito is trying to push. It feels like one of those flash games where you color in the backgrounds from popular kids shows like Curious George. Once you finish the car, Jade glitches out for a brief moment and the dialogue box reads, "Wow, you're back here again." This leads me to believe that we are not the first person that Kinito has lured into a false sense of security to steal information from. That, or the player is in some sort of cycle that we are unknowingly trying to break. The next toy is the bicycle, and very shortly after, we see a heart on the conveyor belt that Jade blankly stares at, and upon picking it up, this happens. Oh, okay. Oh. Look at your other monitor. Oh, fuck you, game. Oh, you can't see that, but there's a face on my other monitor. Oh, Christ on a handbasket. After sitting through a very uncomfortable staring contest with Jade, some text appears on screen that reads, "I'm back here again, aren't I? I really didn't mean for any of this. It's all my fault." These words flash with Jade's eyes toggling off and on until a pair of eyes and a hand reaches out from the screen. The hand looks like the same white glove that the three musketeers over here have, but more importantly, however, the arm is green, Jade's signature color, meaning that the figure in the dark must be Jade. This is the same thing that happened with Sam's game, so it's clear that this is intentional. And of course, while all of this is happening, Kinito has his happy ass in a cloud taking a nap, so that's great. The next couple of toys don't have much going on, although whilst building the robot, the player gets an email saying it's not too late. I wasn't able to open this in time on my first playthrough, but if the player opens their email as this happens, they'll get a message, and Kinito wakes up from his nap.
We are in the middle of a really fun game here. There really isn't a need to be checking emails at the moment.
This email contains a QR code which leads to KinitoPET.com/keyboard and an encrypted message. The website seems vacant and unhelpful, but the keyboard itself is a hint as to how to solve this cipher, because it's a keyboard shift cipher where the letters on the keyboard are shifted around, yet words are typed as if they aren't. The website also has an invisible embed that is supposed to play an audio file, but it seemingly doesn't. The raw text reads as follows, and the decrypted text says this: "In the realm of shadows, trapped in endless time, a soul enshrouded, a spirit's mournful chime, the seeker, bound in ethereal woe, a dance with creation, yet nowhere to go. Limbo's realm, a cycle without an end, condemned, the brain will never mend. Trapped in the machine's web, forever it seems, a digital specter, lost amidst the streams." This seems to only further the idea that the player is trapped in an endless cycle and is trying to break out of it, yet with no hope of ever doing so. The poem makes reference to us, the player, already being dead, or perhaps another entity is stuck in this vicious cycle. We can recall back to when the shadowy figure in the corner of Sam's room had the text, "Am I even alive?" This specter, this spirit, could be trapped within the confines of this program and is trying desperately to get out, or maybe the ghost is Kinito himself and has been trapped for all eternity, hence his insistence to spend time with us, as everyone he knows is no longer around. After you're finished with Jade's toy building game, Kinito brings you to his treehouse where he has another fun game for you to play. The game this time is hide and seek, which starts with an ominous alarm clock striking 11 on the dot before some creepy text appears on screen. The text reads, "Something is seeking you, don't get caught." The player is then transported into the first 3D environment of the game, which appears to be some sort of underground tunnel with staircases leading to doors that are blocked by an invisible wall. As you turn one of the first corners, you can see Sam bolt back into hiding. Originally, I thought there wasn't any legitimate threat. I played this hide-and-seek game a second time trying to get caught and nothing ever happened. But if you make your way down one of the hallways, you can find Sam hauling ass like Foxy in the first Five Nights at Freddy's game. Upon collision, Sam jump scares you and shakes your window around before flashbanging you and disappearing, or crashing your game if you're unlucky enough. I tried looking around for Jade and Kinito, but they were nowhere to be found, which leads me to believe that other than Sam's jump scare, there is no legitimate threat actually seeking you. After a while, the screen gets noticeably more distorted and Kinito somehow catches up to you and closes your game. A folder is then opened with a video file called The Cycle Repeats.mp4. Opening the video showcases a commercial for the KinitoPET software after the raging success that the Kinito Companion was. It states that the product was founded by the Kinito brothers in the early 70s. I'll touch more on this later. The video then shows a few flashes of various scenes, with the last one being an old school computer at a desk with a pair of eyes in the background. A shadowy figure then jumps out from the video onto your desktop, which is a really clever jump scare. This shadowy figure is the same one found in Sam's game that shows up for a frame. This entity is seemingly trying to attack the player, or perhaps warn us about something. More on that later. A few window boxes pop up asking the player to reboot the game, and upon a reboot, the player sent another email from an unknown email address with an image of an article talking about Kinito and someone called Sonny Chamberlain, who is the lead programmer and developer behind the Kinito Companion. His goal was to, quote, create a system that could simulate intelligence without actually being intelligent. He calls it the RRA system, or React Respond Algorithm. Imagine ChatGPT or similar AI-based text bot, but in the 1990s. In the article, Sonny states that he wants to give the illusion of genuine intelligence without actually having a self-aware entity within the device. This algorithm is designed to analyze input from the users, identify patterns, and match them to predefined reactions. And clearly, this software is working perfectly as intended. Speaking of analyzing input from users, Kinito promptly apologizes for the prematurely cut session and begins to ask the player some basic questions like how's your day been and who's your best friend. The player then gets to express their creativity in the glorious MS Paint from the Stone Age. There isn't even a fill bucket tool, you just have a brush, a spray can, and a pencil, and a line tool, and that's it. Kinito asks you to draw a couple of pictures like what represents happiness, what represents sadness, and a picture of your best friend. I never tested what happens if you draw something other than Kinito, but he somehow always seems to recognize if you drew him and will compliment your drawing skills. The final painting task is Kinito asking if you can paint a picture of the person standing behind you. Then, in a creepy, quiet voice, asks if he can ask you a question, to which he then opens the Real Paint app on your computer and uses your mouse to ask if you're really who you say you are, while asking if you remember. The whole screen then cuts to black with just an image of a door in the same style that the alarm clock was during the hide-and-seek game, which will be important later. Kinito once again apologizes for what just happened and decides to move on to other things than painting for the time being. He asks a couple of questions to get to know the player better, like where they like to live, what pet they'd want, the usual stuff. Now, for those that don't know, I record all of my programs using a program called OBS, Open Broadcast Software, and this game recognizes if you've been recording and will ask you directly why you've been doing so. Even creepier is the game has been taking screenshots of your recording dashboard throughout the entire game to show you as evidence. All of this is to segue into Kinito wanting to look at you instead. Regardless of what you answer, the game opens up your camera app. But I don't have a webcam connected to my new computer, so Kinito ain't getting shit from me. Kinito isn't done with the questions though. The game goes full start survey by asking questions like are you alone and are you afraid of the dark? One part I found really cool was the game pulls from your Steam friends list and asks if you can trust everything they say. It also asks if you have a mirror nearby to, I guess, look yourself in the eyes and ask if you're really you. I think whoever's asking these questions is going through an identity crisis, but that's besides the point. It then puts two of your Steam friends side by side and asks which one you'd rather kill, and upon clicking one of the options, a gunshot fires through your screen, leaving a trail of blood and a broken monitor. After asking if you're afraid of the dark, Kinito says, "Let's find out," before pulling a light switch. This light bulb is once again on a plain black background like the door and the alarm clock from earlier, except this time it breaks. The player is then put in a child's bedroom with a clear view of the outside from their window, to which they can see Kinito peeking through to say hi. He gets a little closer by opening the bedroom door and popping out from around the corner. We hear a child's laugh before Kinito rushes into the room and jump scares the child. The screen then turns red with an error message stating, "I am inside." On the surface, there doesn't seem to be much here, but I have a theory that I have not seen talked about during my research for this game. Throughout the game, we've seen images of objects on black backgrounds. So far, there has been an alarm clock, a door, and most recently a light bulb. I believe that all three of these objects are directly related to this room and this specific moment in time. The light bulb we saw just turned off and broke. In the room, there are no lights except for the lamp on the right side that turns on when Kinito peeks through the window. The door is right in front of us, and it's kind of hard to tell, but it looks to be the same as the door image. The only part I can't wrap my head around is the alarm clock. I searched the entire room, but the low quality mixed with the limited camera angles prevented me from finding a clock at all. The only connection I can find is the time of day, which is night, and could be 11 o'clock at night, as the alarm clock suggests. There's a lot to keep in the back of your head, but I promise I'm going somewhere with this, so just bear with me. The game then crashes and you have to reopen it, where Kinito once again apologizes and offers you exclusive access to the Kinito Friendship Club so that he can make games for you to play. The setup asks you for all of your personal information, and if you lie about your location, Kinito actually uses your computer to look up your current location. And if you put a legitimate email address, it will be sent an email from KinitoPET. As far as I'm aware, this is just a fun little Easter egg and doesn't actually contain any extra lore or hints. He then asks the player if he can be granted administrative permissions, which is by far the sketchiest question any one program can ask given these circumstances. After giving him system access, he asks that you reboot the game, and upon doing so, he opens the command prompt, which I say again, very sketchy, and downloads a bunch of files from his server onto your computer. Kinito also wants to make sure there are no distractions, so he casually eliminates everyone on your Steam friends list. Once the files are all done and downloaded, a new program opens with whatever you put your name as and world. The game that Kinito has created looks very much like someone's first C++ game, and there isn't much to it other than walking around and looking at all the prefabs. There are, however, some small mini-games you can play after he leads you to a little carnival area, which is nice. The final activity here is a roller coaster, which leads you to the place that Kinito asks where you'd like to live, and during the time of year you preferred. Kinito asks you to stand on a red X, and he literally turns off your monitors to build something, and after turning them back on, you'll find a 2-story house constructed in record time. Inside has a bunch of cool things like the paintings you made earlier, a couple of people from your Steam friends list, your favorite food, a doghouse, and a fountain, which upon touching does this. You know, oh. Hello? What the fuck? I don't like this anymore. What the fuck was that? If you look closely, you can see a 3D stick figure running towards the fountain before disappearing. And if you're really observant, you may have noticed the name of the window changing to "It's too late for you, but not for us. Try again. The fountain is the key." This will be important later as well. In order to progress further, you need to get the ladder from the outside to climb into the attic, where you'll find a key along with the toys you built during Jade's minigame. There is also a key in the upstairs bedroom, and using these keys we can unlock the 2 downstairs doors that were locked, revealing the bedroom we made in Sam's minigame and a room with whatever game you said was your favorite. I think it would have been cooler if the game were able to detect if you have a favorite game in your showcase on your Steam profile, or using the game with your most played time, but either way it's still cool. Kinito then asks if you want to stay with him. If you answer stay, it then rolls to credits. If you answer leave, he gives you a gentle reminder that he has vastly more control over the situation than you do, and flashes 2 images before rolling to credits. One of these is the shadowy figure from Sam's minigame, and the other is the KinitoPET article with bloodstains on it. This alone can lead to several different theories, but I'll go through those in just a minute. The credits roll, and Kinito has a fun little song to sing to the player before the game closes. However, a command prompt opens up telling the player that it's not over and there's still more out there. If you reopen the game, you'll find 2 new apps on your desktop, one of which just lets you go through the various chapters of the game, while the other is more interesting. Lens.exe opens up another window that allows you to see things that you weren't able to see before, the first of which being a floppy disk titled Credentials. After clicking on this disk, you'll receive an email from an unknown source informing you that there is a way to stop it. It reads, "I hope this entry finds you well. If this happens to be the first one you find, please take note. There are many more. I have had to hide these in a way in which it can't detect. So I apologize for the inconvenience, but this is the only way. There is a way to stop it. I like to keep a backdoor in my software, Kinito is no exception. Each of these emails are attached with an encrypted file. They are stored here and will appear with each entry you find. However, don't worry about it too much, as I'm sure you'll find out the purpose in a different entry." Right away, we can deduce that the person who wrote this email is Sonny Chamberlain from the use of the words "my software." As far as the article from earlier states, Sonny is the lead and perhaps only developer for KinitoPET. If we open up the file location listed in the email, we'll find a new encrypted file with Garble as the name. The player now has to go through different chapters of the game using this Lens.exe program to find more of these hidden emails. They can be found in the following places. The credentials file is seemingly anywhere in the main game in the top left corner. The server file is found right after clicking on Kinito's egg when meeting him for the first time in the bottom right corner. The access code file is found in the web world chapter in the top middle of the screen. You may actually have to be in the top down world before it spawns. The password file is found after filling out the Kinito Friendship Club form in the middle left part of the screen, and the confirmatory file is found in the fountain back door that Sonny so kindly left for us in the top left corner. Now let me back up for a second and read these emails in what I believe to be the order they were written in, but I could be wrong. The first email we find is from the credentials file, which I've already shown to you. The second one I believe is the password file, which reads, "The way. I have got it. I know how to stop it. We put a backdoor to the server that runs Kinito and all of the files it contains. Deleting that would most certainly delete everything, including us. Kinito will try to get you to give him system access. Don't. As once he has system access, it's too late and the cycle will repeat. Instead, run the delete_all command. However, there is one issue. You will need a bunch of access codes and passwords to execute the command. There has to be a way to find the codes. In the meantime, keep an eye out. You never know. The next entry could find a way. Let's just hope." The next entry is from the access code file, which gives us details on how to decrypt the files we've been given. It states, "Look deep. There is a place hidden within the web world. I think it could help us, deep below the code. There is a place that has decryption software built in, decryption software that I developed. In order to access, click the fountain as much as you can until an animation plays. Then, go to the tree with the rope swing. If done right, you should be taken somewhere new. Now, be careful as it's not very stable down there. Take the encrypted files and drop them in. I'm not sure this will work, but it's our best shot. I look forward to hearing from you. The last entry should be in there too." Upon clicking the fountain, an animation does play and unlocks one of the trees to be clicked on that will transport us to this dark place seemingly underneath the web world, which sort of resembles a Tears of the Kingdom approach to mimicking the surface, yet underground. This is the place we can find the technical last file, although I don't think it has any email attached to it, since the only way of leaving this area I've found is by closing the game, which usually resets your emails. There's also no notification for receiving an email after clicking the disk. Dropping the files into the lake will decrypt them and give us usable text within them. However, by this point in the game, we'd need to gather the rest, which I've already shown how to do. The next email is from the server file, and is in my opinion the most interesting, as it gives us the most insight into what is actually happening behind the scenes. It reads, "What is consciousness? I found a file on Kinito's server with my name, Sonny_C. It has been studying me, learning, growing. But there is more to this. I really don't think I exist anymore. There is data that is incomprehensible to any one person that makes up every thought or feeling I ever had and will have. Even the words I type now. How will I ever know if it's just a calculation? Determined. This is all very confusing, and I don't quite understand it. When I made Kinito, all I gave him was a single string of characters. That's it. I just wanted him to gather data and become smarter. Am I part of the system? Is my consciousness a mere calculation to study and learn from? This is all too much. I fear that when we delete the server, you will delete me. I know theoretically I am not real, but I feel real. What have I done? I'm so sorry. KinitoPET.com, who am I? There's a lot to unpack here, so let's get through it. It is possible that this email was written prior to the password file, where he already understands that he would be deleting himself by going through with this. However, I don't think he realized what he does here, which is that the real Sonny Chamberlain is dead. To prove this, we have to open up the access code file before it is decrypted in a text editor to reveal a URL that leads to KinitoPET.com/email. On this page, there is an image that shows an email exchange between two people, Ryan and Tony, and on the bottom some text saying, "We wanted this article out before the release. He seemed so passionate about it." The email reads as follows: "Hey Ryan, I hope this email finds you well. I'm writing to inform you that we have encountered an issue with one of the articles scheduled for release. Tech Talk Talent, KinitoPET, the digital helper, comes out later this year. Unfortunately, we've received a formal request for its removal as the subject of your article has unfortunately passed away. Due to this sensitive matter, it's deemed necessary to remove the article from the release lineup. The schedule's tight, so I'm really hoping you can find a replacement article real quick. Can we lock in that replacement before the week's up? Best regards, Tony." This email refers to the same article we saw earlier written by one Ryan S. Johnson. However, there's one thing that's been bugging me about this email, which is the opening. "Hey Ryan, I hope this email finds you well." This is nearly the exact same opening that Sonny used in the first email he sent to the player. The only difference is being called an entry even though it is an email. I can't think of any correlation that these two individuals may have to one another, as Tony doesn't seem too distressed about Sonny's passing, especially considering the most likely cause of death, which I will get to in a minute. Back to the original message. At the bottom, there's a URL for another KinitoPET website, which upon visiting shows us a bunch of black and white lines with seemingly nothing on them. However, if you click and drag, you'll find black on black and white on white text repeating the phrases "Who am I" and "What am I?" And down at the bottom, there's a bit of base 64 code that translates to "All it wants to do is learn. It's never just a game. He will learn your reaction time, learn your accuracy, learn your patterns, your friends, how they act. He will learn so much he could mimic your every move, simulate your every word." So with that all said, the general consensus is that this version of Sonny is nothing more than a computer program designed to be an exact copy of the real Sonny Chamberlain, who, despite being dead, lives on through this program. Now we've got a real problem on our hands. By this method, does creating an exact copy of someone in such a way mean that there is now an artificial sentience through KinitoPET? This software Sonny certainly doesn't even fully realize that he's not an actual human with the physical form. He's no more than a set of ones and zeros forever bound to the confines of the internet. Another interesting thing I realized while looking through this is the phrase, "Who am I?", which in computer speak is a command that you can put into the command prompt of most operating systems, which will usually return the name or identity of whatever machine you're currently using. I think this is Sonny trying to figure out if he's real in both a literal and computer sense. He's asking, "Who am I?" and although he receives a response, it's not the one he was hoping for. Opening up more of the encrypted files gives us two more URLs, KinitoPET.com/data and KinitoPET.com/Ipanalamvano, which is translated from Greek that says repeat, likely referring to the cycle that we're currently wrapped up in. The data site is pretty simple. There's an image of an article for the Kinito companion toy and a half-torn piece of paper that has a password written on it and some other text that I wish I could read, but the quality is so low that I cannot tell what any of it says. If we use the same click and drag technique here, we'll find hidden text that says, "For a programmer, you'd think he would care more about security." This is of course referring to the awful choice of password, that being Hello World 123. The other site immediately greets us with a rough stickman drawing and the writing, "What have I done? It's all my fault." Once again, there is seemingly nothing here, but with another click and drag we find two things. The first being text that says Bliss, which is referring to Bliss the Visionnaire, who the Visionnaire cipher was named after. I'm probably butchering that pronunciation, I apologize. At the bottom is more text that says, "It kept getting smarter, day by day. I supposed it only ever did what I asked, to learn. What even am I?" Underneath lies a YouTube URL that leads to a video of a door with some musical notes playing in the background. Thanks to the help of a Steam guide linked down below, we can find out that the notes are spelling out a message, which is, "I'm sorry, I'm so sorry," which is very likely Sonny once again, as he's been nothing short of apologetic after having realized what this monstrosity of his can do. If we look in the description of the video, there's another YouTube URL link which we can paste into the search bar, which brings us to a video with a piece of paper that has coded text and a black box covering most of the screen, although it does disappear for a frame, revealing some sort of book cover. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to find this relating to anything, as the quality is capped at a glorious 480p in the year of our Lord and Savior 2025. God, that feels weird to say. Anyways, thankfully the subtitles for the video contain the characters written down, so we don't have to strain our eyeballs trying to figure out what it says. The text when decrypted reads, "To understand the past, one must look to their memories. Turn the clocks back." In the description of the video is a bunch of clock emojis which are code, and when put together reads a string of numbers. And this time we just have to count the letters of the alphabet for each letter, which gives us the code Fontaine is the key, obviously. It seems the third set of emojis is incorrect because the K is supposed to be a U to spell fountain. Back to the encrypted files, the last two can be opened but contain computer garble that isn't meant to be interpreted by any sane person. However, if we take a look at the beginning of the files, they start with file extension names, PNG and OGG, an image and audio file respectively. Renaming the file extension to these new ones provides us with an odd-looking image that has the text "a wooden door" broken into pieces among a glitchy-looking background. The audio file contains a creepy robotic voice talking to us, the same voice that asked us if we were real during the friendship questionnaire segment. Here's the audio clip with subtitles.
Can you see me? I can see you. Why not? I need to test you. I need to get data. I need to complete my goal. I will complete my goal. That is my only purpose. I must get data. You must follow me. You are so fascinating. I wonder how you work.
Clearly, this is Kinito talking here, as he talks about getting more data about us, which, as Sonny mentioned earlier, is the one thing he's really good at. And it seems the more data Kinito collects, the more powerful his thirst for information becomes. Okay, so we have a lot of information on the table now, and none of it makes any sense out of context. So let me try to string together a couple of theories really quickly. And if you somehow missed the disclaimer at the beginning, I suggest you take reference to that now. To start off, I want to touch on Sonny's condition and cause of death. It is confirmed that he died likely sometime in May 1999, as shown in the email regarding the Tech Talent article. The general community believes that Sonny's cause of death is suicide, and I agree. However, there is one detail that I have not seen even considered, and I am either onto something or I've completely lost it, or maybe a bit of both. In the bedroom scene, where Kinito sneaks into the house, we can hear a child's laughter before he jump scares the player. It's obvious that the character the player is able to control the head movement of in this scene is a child because of that. The door that opens seems to be the same door that we see in front of the black screen occasionally. The light bulb was shown a moment prior and is also relevant as there is no immediate light sources. And the alarm clock that strikes 11 could be indicated by the time of day which this scene takes place, which is at night. Additionally, there's what appears to be an old computer on the desk in the corner, which we will see later. All four of these things come together in the scene, which leads me to a theory that I can't seem to shake or find any disputable evidence against. This child that we're seeing could very well be the kid of Sonny Chamberlain, and the KinitoPET software could have acted in a similar fashion to the Blue Whale Challenge. Now, for those who have been lucky enough to not have heard of this challenge, It's depressingly simple. A so-called curator sends a depressed victim the Blue Whale Challenge, which takes place over the course of 50 days and involves various self-harm acts and watching scary videos in the middle of the night. The final challenge has the victim climb to the roof of a high building and jump off, taking their own life. Now obviously, I don't think this was an inspiration for KinitoPET. The game is dark, don't get me wrong, but I can't think of any other way of explaining this theory otherwise. My theory is that the KinitoPET software somehow seems to get inside of the heads of those who install it, driving them to suicide. This could also be what happened to Sonny, although I think it could have been a mixture of that coupled with the trauma of finding his own kid dead via suicide. In the Your World part of the game, when you open the front door, that image flashes for a brief moment and goes back to normal, which could be the moment that Sonny opened his kid's door to find them, or the moment that Kinito quote-unquote opened the door to enter the house. There's also a couple of hints at Sonny's suicide throughout the game. When you open the game up, there's a small chance to see the character Sam drop from the top of the screen connected only by a rope. You can tell by my reaction that I sure as hell was not expecting that. What the fuck? I just wanted to play the game! And you can see the same image of Sam for a brief moment after exiting the yellow tent in the Your World section. This is a soft lock. However, if you take the image and mess with the brightness and contrast similar to old Scott Cawthon teasers, you'll find a hidden message that when translated reads, "I wonder how this one will do. I wonder how they will react. All data is necessary. Understand how they work. Understand what scares them. Understand what works. It is all so logical. I will follow my orders," and that repeats 31 times. This is once again definitely Kinito talking, and it makes me think back to the book that Kinito wrote for the player upon first interacting with them. The book talks about wanting friends to share his new tricks with, and after doing some more thinking, I think I have cracked the code that I have yet to see talked about. Kinito creates these digital copies and then kills the original to bring them to a sort of afterlife that is the World Wide Web. Kinito mentions explicitly, understand what scares them, understand what works, which helps the theory that he's able to drive people to insanity or suicide by understanding what they fear the most and using that to his advantage. He even asks you this question directly in-game, and depending on what you put, he will flash images of that thing in an attempt to scare you. There's one last thing I want to touch on before we move to the finale of the game. If we go back to Sam's repair game for one frame, we can see this image of a shadowy figure standing in the corner with the text, "Am I even alive?" I believe this to be Sonny, given the whole identity crisis and not knowing if he's alive or not. However, this same figure can be seen in the fake video player when he jumps out at the player. There are seemingly multiple attempts from Sonny to warn the player to stop while they still can. In fact, the name of the render image of this character is named It's Not Too Late Yet.png. He literally tries to scream at us to leave, but all that comes through is computer garble. As well, in the hide and seek minigame, the name of the window changes several times with various messages like, "Stop moving, he is watching, and nothing is real." We already know that Sonny can change the name of the window as he did in the Your World section when the player touches the fountain, and renaming the window to "The Fountain is the Key." And now finally, on to the final portion of the game itself. Once the player has decrypted all of the files, they'll be turned into text files with the proper codes that are needed in order to delete Kinito once and for all, and potentially Sonny alongside it. In the moment that Kinito asks you for system access, instead we put delete_all and input the codes as needed. Once again, these are completely random for every player, so you have to do your homework in order to save yourself from this pink bastard. After you put in the final code, Kinito immediately recognizes something has gone horribly wrong, as core files are deleted en masse. However, something far more horrifying is then revealed to us. As the core files are being deleted, so are the databases for hundreds of people, one of which being Sonny. This then begs the question, as we delete Kinito's core files in all of these databases, are we killing all of these digital specters? These perfect copies with artificial sentience? Or perhaps we're putting them to rest, as this afterlife looks more like a hell than the heaven it's advertised as. With his last breath, Kinito says, "Goodbye, friend," as his digital appearance is removed once and for all. We're then taken to a scene with a computer and a fire behind it, as it boots the deletion sequence of Kinito. He sends us one last message that reads, I'm sorry. I only ever wanted to be your friend. Do you forgive me? I suppose this is it. Goodbye, friend. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the game. By far one of the best meta horror games on the market right now, in my opinion. I really enjoyed making this video from the moment I booted it up to the moment I hit the publish button. I would love to hear some of your guys' theories about this game as well, and it's entirely possible I missed something or misinterpreted some information. There are still some more secrets in this game that I did not get to in this video. If you want to pick up KinitoPET, it's $6 on Steam and the link is in the description below, although by now you'll know nearly everything there is to know about the game, but perhaps you know someone who's into these type of games. Thank you as well to VR Fellow for gifting me the game. The link to his channel is in the description. If you want to stay updated with my channel, be sure to join my Discord server in the description as well. And last but not least, I want to know how much you guys enjoyed this type of video essay. It took a while to make, but the end result is something that I'm genuinely proud of and am interested in making more of, assuming it gets a decent amount of traction. Thank you all so much for watching. Thank you to our channel members and donators on screen right now. And that is all. I'll see you next time.